How does a very successful real estate professional transition to notes? Stay tuned. Welcome to NoteSchool TV. We are glad to have you this week, and we have an amazing guest today. So we are just going to jump right into it. By the way, guys, if you want to know more about what we do at NoteSchool, just go to noteschool.com/TV. With that, let's bring on, the founder of NoteSchool, our chief visionary officer, all-around good guy, Mr. Eddie Speed.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm really excited today, and we are going to have a guest that is going to give us quite a journey, and we are so glad that part of her journey has been connecting with us. So we're going to have a fun time with it.
All right, Eddie, you guys have a great show. I'll see you on the back end.
All right. Well, you guys are going to love our guest today. She is a very, very savvy investor. But I appreciate the fact that she saw notes in her path, and we were fortunate enough to get connected with her, and we're going to have a great time hearing her story. You guys welcome Miss Stacy Brower.
Morning, Eddie.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. I am so glad to have you. Now, you are in the Seattle area, right?
Yes, suburb of Seattle called Sammamish.
Okay. Well, I have spent a lot of time in years past up in the Seattle area. I learned that it's more fun to go there in the summer than it is in the winter, though.
It's gorgeous right now.
It is absolutely
every day. It's perfect. Nowhere you'd rather be than Seattle in the summer.
I agree with you. I've been there. I have been there, and it is beautiful. We are so glad to have your presence with us today, and so, Stacy, when people come to NoteSchool and our podcast, our TV, they are all kind of backgrounds. So some people are like ninja real estate investors, some of them not so much. You are a ninja, right? But I am so thrilled to say that notes have more and more become part of your past, right? Are part of your path, right? You've done some notes. You've done some notes, but now you want to really take it to a different level. So let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your background, kind of before you got to us.
So I have a business partner, and I've been in real estate since about 2004. And I had my own team in the Seattle area. Then my partner Kendra and Todd and I partnered up about 2008 and founded our company, the Kendra Todd Group. And so we've had all phases of residential real estate, large teams, small teams, done everything on that side. And then she and I started investing just for fun on the side in multifamilies around 2010, 11, 12. So we would just go to the foreclosure auctions or wherever we could find them and pick up a 4-plex, a 10-plex. We bought small self-storage. We bought a mobile home park. So we just kind of gradually started doing that on the side for fun while we had our residential real estate, which is our main company. And we woke up one day and had 220 doors, and this piece that was just kind of our fun side job, we both realized it was where our passion was and what we loved. And so then we started joining some of these mastermind groups to figure out really how to focus on that. And that was when we heard you, and Kendra and I are both Christian, and literally it spoke to both of our hearts. It's a win-win. We loved everything about notes. And so while we still love real estate and are always going to be in real estate, we're transitioning going forward and adding the note piece to our main core portion of our business.
Well, that is quite a story. And yes, I do know you from some what I would call high-end real estate masterminds. So it's been great meeting you and your partner, Kendra, and we'll have her on another day. She's got a whole very interesting story, and we'll talk about that. I've spent a good bit of time with you now, and you're a very well thoughtful person. You think through things really well. And, you know, I had a funny thing before the interview. I asked you a question and I said, what's your superpower? And you had to stop and think for a minute.
Yeah.
And you said, well, nobody's ever asked me that. And I want you to say this because I want to make this kind of the thesis of the show, because I think it's an incredible superpower and I believe it's true. Stacy, what is your superpower?
I said my work ethic and my decisiveness, but I probably should have put more thought into that. But I think I do work very hard. I put the hours in, I put the time in, and I'm very decisive. So we can move pretty quickly.
So I think that is a truth. And it has been my experience in just kind of observing and watching you. But the thing about being decisive is you have to measure some market timing things to be able to make decisions, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think being decisive, you have to have the knowledge and know when to make the decision. But I think one of my strengths is going, okay, do I have enough information to make the decision? And as soon as I do, moving forward on it. Where I see a lot of people in a lot of different aspects of my life that kind of analyze and never just jump in and take that step. You have to say, okay, I may not have 100%, but I've got 97%, and this is the data that I need to move forward with whatever the decision is. So
I look at real estate opportunities and notes being in that list, right? I look at real estate opportunities no different than any other business opportunity in life. What would it have been like to buy Apple stock when it first started? What would it have been like to buy one of the very first Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look back and say, well, that would have been an incredible ride. And the answer is timing has to do with everything. And the thing that I appreciate about you is, yes, because of your work ethic, because of your discipline, because of your experience, that work ethic has been a part of that, right? I felt like you saw notes and you got the vision.
Oh, we were so excited. I mean, after we spoke to you, because Ken and I have been trying to figure out what is that next step. And as soon as we heard you speak, we both, left within 30 seconds and went out and said, this to me makes sense. She's like, absolutely. And so we decided at that point to go all in and start doing the research, joining NoteSchool, figuring out what next steps are. I mean, buying all the books, reading, listening to all the podcasts. So we really just felt like, okay, this is something we need to explore. And we were both so excited about it. So we jumped in. We've already started buying notes. We're starting, we've had investor meetings, learning pledges, just going all in on it. So, and it's a win-win. I mean, what we love about it, and we've been in all aspects of real estate, there's a lot of ways to do really well in real estate, and there's some that just don't feel as good to us, meaning I feel like somebody wins and somebody loses in the transaction. In notes, I feel like, perfect example, like I got my mom into a note. She's 83 and she had money sitting at 3.8% in a CD, and I can take that and get her 8 to 9%. And she gets monthly cash flow. It's a win-win. So we win and our investors win. And I love that about real estate. And that's what Kendra and I loved about a lot of the pieces of real estate, is that we get to help our clients either buy a home or sell a home. If they're selling, we want to get them top value. If they're buying, we want to get them into a property that they're going to love or their family's going to love. We like the win-win portions of real estate. And we've been looking for real estate adjacent investments. And Notes was the first one that really came to us that is also a really big win-win. So we kind of like that whole aspect of the note business.
Well, I mean, I listened to you guys' journey, right? And you started buying distressed property in 2010. And I'm very aware of the market opportunity in your neck of the woods in 2010 and buying, properties that were in foreclosure, and you've had a big ride up in value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, property isn't so cheap anymore. It's not on sale anymore, right?
No.
And it's not cash flowing the way it was, right? So those are just market conditions. You didn't do anything wrong. Those are just market conditions that hit. So then all of a sudden, kind of like all of us, you're looking for that next, what is the right thing to do in this market condition?
Absolutely.
Let's talk
Yeah,
about
I mean,
that.
our insurance, so our insurance carrier on all of our multifamilies just dropped every one of our properties. They're no longer doing multifamily. So we're out shopping for insurance on all of our properties. It's doubled, if not more, on almost every one that we have. Our, expenses are going up, our repairs are going up, and our rents just weren't going up in the same, in the same lockstep. Or,
Yeah.
our property management fees, just everything is increasing, but the rents aren't. In Washington State just put in rent control, which is another situation. So, like I said, we don't ever want to get completely out of real estate, but we are selling off some of those to get into notes, to go into other asset classes. And I also love that notes are less noisy, right? There's, it's more predictable, but also less noise, less like as you say, toilets and tenants. And I was on vacation and somebody's septic tank overflowed in their backyard, and it's 9 o'clock at night, and I'm trying to find an emergency, person to fix the septic tank. So there's just a lot of things about notes that are just really appealing to us, and the stability of it.
Yeah, I tell people there's three things that people in a comparison of rentals versus notes, there's three things that jump off the page. Less stress. You can have a lot more notes with a lot less aggravation. Way better cash flow today, net income, right? And then there's a cushion factor with notes, because if you buy a note for $250,000, the property's worth more than $250,000, right?
Well, I think being in real estate for so long, there's no investment that doesn't have risk. But what I was doing is we were making our money in real estate, and then I'm handing it over to a stockbroker and putting it into stocks. And we took all of the courses and we bought all of the back end software to look at the PE ratios and try to figure it out. But that wasn't our core competency, it wasn't our core business. So I'm handing all of my money to go into a different asset class that I would lose money and go, okay, or I'd win and I'd go, okay, but I'm not sure I really could have made it change that outcome. Where with notes, being in first position on a property, it's not that there isn't risk, but I completely understand that risk. Worst case scenario, the client, defaults and doesn't pay. You have to go through a foreclosure process, or you can do a deed in lieu. There's, you can work with them to reconfigure the loan that might work for them to make it a win-win. The worst case scenario, you take that property back. And then, so I was talking to a potential investor, and they said, well, what if the market crashes and it's worth 20% less? I'm like, I understand that. I can put a tenant in there for 5 years until the market comes back. I understand the risk component. And to me, that's not scary, because I still have that asset. I still have that, that collateral in that property. So just everything about notes, it's, there's nothing that's risk-free, but it makes sense. And I understand the risk, and I understand how to work through it.
You're a logical thinker, right? And, and I like it because you're repeating back kind of what's my theme song, right? Like, and you've dealt with, because you run a real estate brokerage, right? You've dealt with lots of people making real estate decisions. Some of them were trained and some of them were not so trained, right? So you can relate to the difference between making an uninformed decision and trying to know every possible thing under the sun that could go wrong, which lets you never make a decision, right? There's a balance, right?
Absolutely. And it's a risk reward. I mean, you can put your money in the bank at 2% forever, but if you want to grow and if you want to have legacy and you want to build wealth, you have to figure out what the right investment tools are for you. And the higher the risk, the higher reward. But notes to me is a nice middle, less noisy asset class. It just makes sense. You're getting double what you're going to get at the bank. It's consistent, and I understand the risk side. So to me, it's just it was an easy decision. As soon as I heard you and learned about notes, I was like, of course, like, it just, there was nothing about it that didn't make complete sense.
That's awesome. All right. So I love this. I would tell you that there's not any string of sentences I've heard in the past year that it makes more sense than what you've said to me, right? I believe it. I believe in everything you're saying. You're a real estate person, but the market told you to change, right? As you said, you got rents going up, but expenses are going up way surpassed higher than the rents. And you do have an environment, you have a political environment that isn't as friendly to landlords as it has been in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are just market conditions, right?
If
you were a whiskey manufacturer when the prohibition hit, that wasn't the best business to be in, right?
Yeah, and so it's a time where we've said, okay, I think we're probably going to sell about 40 of our doors and transition those into notes, less noisy asset classes, and just things that, when we really started running the numbers, the returns on a lot of our multifamilies just, we're pretty low. And so then the argument is, okay, but you get the appreciation over time. But then we start having the conversation of, yes, if I sell it in 10 years, I can take that appreciation, but the net present value of that, if I can take that money today, put it in the notes and get the cash flow today, the net present value, we started running it like, okay, so we could buy 2 to 3 notes on the net present value of what the appreciation might be in 10 years. And that just made sense to us. So when you really start getting into the numbers and the math, I mean, everything makes sense and it's less noisy. So it's, again, a win-win.
Yeah, it's funny when somebody comes to a 2-day class, we geek out a little bit and we get into really the math of what it means to get the money today versus wait to get it in appreciation tomorrow. And I think we made a fairly compelling argument that getting the money today, way more money today than you're getting, and waiting on the money tomorrow when you're, what's tomorrow's dollar by versus today's dollar, right? And
you have to be disciplined. You have to say, okay, I'm
Sure.
not going to take today's money and blow it all. But if you take today's money and reinvest it, then in that 10-year period, your long-term numbers are really, they just make a lot more sense. But you have to be disciplined.
Stacy, I'm betting on you. I'm betting discipline is not a problem.
That's true.
All right. So I love the idea, and I agree with you that I think you can drastically change the effectiveness of rentals. I came up with an analogy. I don't know why I said whiskey a while ago, but I was already on that path a little bit. You have an ear of corn, right? And I asked this question. I polled several people. Joe's actually not heard me say this, by the way. You have an ear of corn. What's the highest and best use with that ear of corn? And I've asked several people, and they're like, well, you could cream it, or you could grill it, or you can make this dish with. And it's funny, like I just keep probing somebody into telling me that, right? Tell me what all you could do with that corn. I asked our marketing guy this literally yesterday, Stacy, and he likes to cook. His brother's a professional cook. He likes to cook, and he's telling me all the things you could do with the corn. And I had a bottle of whiskey that was on my shelf here that somebody gave me. And I came in my office and I grabbed that bottle of whiskey and I went back and set it on his desk. And I said, that's highest and best use for that corn. And he started laughing and he said, that is the truth. And so I look at it and think all of us have real estate. We just don't always think in terms of highest and best use.
And the highest and best use might change based off the season in your life and based off the market conditions.
100%, not just the market, but where you are. And that leads me to where I wanted to really go with this, right? Mm-hmm. I think our audience is pretty clear that you're very capable of being analytical. You don't overanalyze, but you certainly know how to analyze. You know how to get good information to make good business decisions. You're a good businesswoman. That's just what you are, right?
Thank you.
But more importantly, I also am friends with you on Facebook. And I see these pictures of your beautiful family and your boys, who, by the way, are going to be really tall, I think. That's just like, there's another dimension of life. And so I wanted to kind of shift to, like, all of these things are leading to what I am curious about, which is, how do you see this changing possibly your life?
One of the reasons that we started joining a lot of these masterminds was because Kendra and I want to build legacy for our families. And we wanted to see how we could do that with less noise, where we could spend time with our children. Because I am a workaholic. I do have a good work ethic, but my family always comes first. God, family, and work. And so we have really tried to figure out how we can reduce the noise and work smarter, not harder. And so we want to be able to build this legacy for our families. So I just set up my children with their own Roth accounts. So they're going to be buying their first notes. So this summer, their summer schools, every week they have to do a financial, it's about a 15-minute financial video with me. And they're learning the things that I didn't learn until I was in my 40s, because we don't teach Americans, we don't teach our children how money works, how the world works. And so they've been learning about notes. And so we're actually looking for one right now that they're going to go in and buy their first note, hopefully this fall. So, teaching them, while they're both still in middle school, and having them look at their own portfolios and watch it grow and how does it work, and just teaching them the process now, I think is going to set them up to make their life much easier. Just how money works and how the world works. And so Ken and I are really big on building a legacy for our families, but also teaching them to fish, not just, leaving them a check.
Can I challenge you?
I would love it.
I would love for you to journal that and come speak about that at Note Expo.
Sure.
Because, you've gotten to know Martha, my wife, and you've heard the story, right? Our daughter was extremely into dance. Our boys were extremely into sports, it seems like your boys are, right?
Yes.
And, but what happened to us is I owned NoteSchool. So they would come to classes and they would come to events, right? And so they were around all these NoteSchool people. So they kind of got a little bit of the itch about this. And then when Martha started taking their Roth IRA money and investing their Roth IRA money into a note, then their interest level drastically changed, like shockingly changed. Like not something we would have necessarily predicted. And so I would love to have that as kind of a journal that we could do to show people, if you involve your kids in this, you're going to be shocked at how they respond back to it.
Absolutely, because they see it when it's their money and their future, and they can see the growth. I took one of my older one, my 13-year-old, went to one of the masterminds when they had The Apprentice there, and he's texting me from the room. He's like, "Mom, do you know about compound interest? Mom, do you have my account in a high yield?" They get much more involved when they realize how it can affect their life. And I love to see that excitement and that just the opening up of their minds on how money works, at a young age. Because I think if I would have known at even 25 what I know today, my life would be dramatically different, right? Just how it all works.
I can totally relate. I can totally relate. I didn't know anything. I knew about commerce. I grew up in a cattle auction barn and around horses, buying and selling horses and cattle. And so I understood commerce, doing business and trading, right? But I didn't know like how to make money, right? And once again, I just got dumb lucky at 20 years old and met Martha's dad and got introduced to this. And I saw how quickly my interest changed and how, then I saw it with my kids. And of course, I'm now excited to do it. So, anyway, I would love to do that, because I'm saying that what I think, there's a thing about legacy, and I know that we've had this conversation, right? There's a difference between just giving kids money and teaching kids to fish.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible talks about that, right?
Absolutely. And I think that also passing that work ethic on and wanting them to know and learn and build it for themselves, but having that base knowledge where they can go build what they want, and take their passions and add it on top of it, but knowing how money works and how the world works. I mean, I grew up with a single mom as a school teacher. I mean, I got out of college and I got my first job, and it says, do you want to sign up for the 401k? And I'm like, what's a 401k? I called my mom. She doesn't know. I mean, I grew up, without, with a huge amount of love and the most amazing mother in the world, but without that financial background. And so I'm coming to it 20 years too late. So I'm like, I want my kids to be able to do what they want and do what they love, but always understand in the background, be able to do notes or real estate, or just understanding how to use money to make money.
Yeah, that is so cool. One more thing that I want to talk about. I know you're building legacy. That's really cool. I mean, I'm just so excited to hear more of that story, right? Is that you've taken a lot of investors' money and helped them make money within your real estate investments. In other words, you brought in investors, right?
We're doing more now. We're actively growing that piece of it, because of the notes. Because to me, again, it's a win-win. And it wasn't even something that originally we were looking for massive investors. I'd be at a dinner party and people would be like, oh, they always want to talk real estate. And so I'm like, oh, this is something I'm really excited in. And I was more talking about something I was investing in. And people were like, oh, well, I have this money in a CD, or I just sold this rental and I don't know what to do with it. And so just from organic conversation, people started saying, gee, what do you have? How can I participate? And so that's really how we, it kind of opened our eyes of how many people that we could also help. And it's a win-win for everyone. So yes, we didn't start out doing big investor series. It was more just everyone, when they hear it, understands and it makes sense to them.
I know you've heard me say it, but I'm going to do it for the benefit of our audience if I can. There's two things that I use as a conversation starter. I teach people how to buy first mortgages on real estate. We'll instead of buying a house and renting it to somebody, I buy their mortgage and they live in the house and they own it, right? And you say, why would I rather be a bank than the landlord? And the answer is the banks are making more money right now than landlords are, right?
Absolutely.
But I still get to have own a first mortgage, and somebody gets to own their house, and it's a win-win for them. And by the way, banks have been doing this for a couple of 100 years now. And what is the tallest building in most every city?
The tallest 4 or 5 are all the banks. Yes. And
so it's funny, like that's the icebreaker. I'm just I know you've heard me say it, but that's kind of the icebreaker I'll do in a situation. And usually you can sort of drop the mic and they'll chase you out of the room at that point, right?
Well, and everyone wants to talk about real estate, right? Because everyone, so they'll come up and talk to me about, how's the market? Like, is it a good time to buy a rental? And again, I was just like, hey, this is something I'm doing because I'm really excited about it, because this is what I'm seeing in the market. And you're right. I mean, they'll text me 2 days later, hey, can you, tonight I have somebody who's like, hey, can my husband jump on the call? Can you talk to us about that again? I mean, it makes sense. So that's awesome. Most of our investors have just come from friends, colleagues, coworkers, that get it, that are looking for something that is passive, but can get them double the returns they're getting at the banks.
No question about it. Stacy, I was very excited about this interview because I know how smart you are, and I know how intentional you are. And I know that how family oriented, how spiritual oriented, and how family oriented you are. And so I was really excited about this. And I got to say that I think now the whole audience gets why I was excited about this. You're awesome.
Well, thank you for having me, Eddie. I'm just literally, Ken and I are thrilled that we have met you and that we've joined Note School, because we really are changing our path forward based off what you're teaching, and we could not be more excited.
Hey, I'm just a vessel.
Well, we're thrilled that we have met you and have that vessel. So
that's all right.
Stacy, your massive enthusiasm is infectious, right? And I think that people are just, they gravitate. And, one of the things that I've always said is, if you want to know how to raise capital, just have a conversation with somebody, right? So like Eddie said, they'll follow you around. I mean, Eddie and I have been at things and they follow us literally into the bathroom or wherever it is, right? They're just asking questions. But we've heard it 1,000 times. I wish I would have started this, 25 years ago or whatever it is. But it's really all about, hey, you are where you are. The decisions you made brought you to where you are, and you can start at any time.
Well,
and that's the way we want to end today, right?
I'm choosing to start younger, so I'll journal there. I'm a bit older, but hey, as soon as I heard it, I was like, I'm going to start. So
that's awesome.
Yep. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, we'd love to have you. So very good. This wraps up another edition of Note School TV. As you can see, it's not about Eddie. It's not about myself. It's about folks like Stacy and what they're doing out there every day to make this real and to not only affect their lives, their children's lives, and others' lives. So thanks so much. If you want to know more about what we do at Note School, simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.